Now we're at, I mean, 2 out of 3, sort of, but really 3 out of 4 if you want to count. If you want to count Wolfen, I kind of do, kind of don't, whatever. Not a big deal. But now we're down to just Gears, who, as I've mentioned, as I brought this up before, that Gears is the one that I've got high hopes for when it comes to the God Seeds. So let's get to the chapter itself, get to everything that went on, and just discuss how things pretty much all were handled. In the previous chapters, we know Juvia was captured by Metro, like absorbed into his body, and he was using her essentially as a hostage so Gray wouldn't attack. And I figured that he was gonna do something to kind of just build up a position where he wasn't going to end up getting any form of damage, because as a summoner, I don't imagine that he would have high durability. Generally, like traditional casters and summoners, as we've seen with both Doom and Metro, are not characters that are going to have like a very I'll just easy way out durable body. They're not going to have a high durability. Their stat in like withstanding levels of power is not going to be nearly as high as a character that it's something like a Dragon Slayer, where they're pretty much always getting like big heavy amounts of damage dropped on them, and stamina and fortitude is just something that comes with them. So I figure that once they just got in range for an attack, and when they got in a position where they could land some damage on Metro, that was going to be what it was going to clinch the deal. Because like I said, I didn't think that Metro was going to have much when it came to like being able to take hits. I mean, there's like an absolute like level that he should obviously be able to withstand. I mean, like the super fodder to like current levels is like Ikusa Tsunagi, so something like that. And like, sure, yeah, you should at least scale off of something like that where it's not even noteworthy in terms of the characters at all right now. And especially when what we've seen from the God Seeds, at least so far, is around Spriggan level, that it would just make sense in that regard. But anyway, right now, well, not right now, in the chapter at the start of, because of the previous chapter where Gray said that Juvia was his reason to live. She's getting all hot and excited from hearing this. She's just losing herself, getting super amped up, and the level of steam that comes off her, just that boiling water from her emotions, is causing Metro a little bit of strain. And I thought that was just really cool because we haven't seen the Sierra Juvia form, that boiling water, I think all the way since Phantom Lord. Like it's been a while. Like it's been a good while since we've really seen her like even utilize this ability whatsoever. You think it would be something that might get brought up a little bit more? I mean, it's not a crazy difference in like her capability. It's just her water gets all boiling and it adds like a heat effect to it. It's not like she gains some new really OP ability on top of what she already had. It's just a slight alteration that can be beneficial in some scenarios. But it's because of that high level of steam and heat coming off her body from her boiling water that Metro was not liking it. He was getting upset by it, and Gray, when he's just like, hey, you need to calm down. You need to pretty much just get yourself under control, and you need to cool your head down. He realizes at that point, hey, I have an idea. And he's like, I need to use your body for a moment. Obviously, Juvia is okay with that. And you got to keep in mind, Juvia is made of water. I mean, this also, I'll mention one thing about this when we, in a moment, that I think is really good. In terms of the consistency of stuff that Mishima's been doing in 100 Years Quest that I really liked. But in this, like, he ends up using the Juvia's body because she's with her magic made of water to create ice. So he's essentially using the her own self to form his attacks, and he's not gonna run into the obstacle of drop like a big attack, and what if Juvia gets caught in it? He is making like in a situation where she's not gonna be able to be damaged by it because she is said ice being used. Now he's just using all these different attacks. Like he uses just like a Juvia freeze, probably testing out like a Juvia geyser. So he's making a big eruption of ice from just kind of like sprout up from where she was, and then goes in further and uses the Juvia hammer. That one's definitely my favorite. I like her face just spread across this giant ice hammer. And when I mentioned that something that I've really liked that Hiromishima's been doing when it comes to 100 Years Quest is he's had a lot of really good callbacks to earlier in the series. And I think this chapter as well is done a really good job of that, because really when you think about, the first time Juvia and Gray met, Gray had to deal with the boiling water. Gray had to gain the capability of freezing her body and freezing her magic in order to defeat her. And now he's utilizing, her, the fact that she's made of water and this same ability that previously like caused him issue, but now he came up with a strategy to win with it. And I thought that was just a really nice, nice little callback. I've really enjoyed the fact that he's able to like lay down ideas that you can see and be like, oh man, this reminds me of this, and this happened here. I'm fully expecting the Bellionese to be related to Selene and just be like a nice Galuna Island nod. But after that point where the Juvia hammer drops on Metro, Juvia is fully free. She goes back and just kind of like as water, not ice anymore, just kind of splatters all over. And then Gray calls her over to do a unison raid, which, again, like I've said before, like the God Seeds, at least obviously not counting the Alderaan one, have been somewhere around Spriggan level from what I've seen and from what their feats have been displayed as. So Gray already, being somewhat around level with Metro, and to the point where he clearly, as we saw, was avoiding getting hit by Gray, not wanting to get hit by his attacks. And even if he's around level with Spriggan, that doesn't change the fact that that Metro is a summoner. Like, he is a summoner. Summoners generally don't have high durability because they're not centered around the idea of taking damage. Lucy is an exception to that because she refused to fight like a traditional summoner, and because of the fact that she always wanted to fight with her spirits, she ended up getting, taking a lot of damage, in fights, and from, just the progression of the story and, constantly getting hit by attacks that otherwise she wouldn't be hit by. She's clearly been able to build up a pretty good sense of durability, as well as obviously like heat resistance and stuff. So they end up using this big ice wave attack. I like that it's just like this large surge of water. It spreads out enough or make contact and stuff. It just freezes instantly and just layers over, the area that it's just designated to affect. I thought that was really cool. I thought that when you combine them, because like I said, if he's somewhere around Spriggan level, and so is Gray, that when you have them, it's like, okay, yeah, they should have levels close enough that they can, deal with each other but not be so overwhelmed. But obviously, Unison Raid is a magical fusion. They're combining their powers. And even though Juvia's definitely strong. In terms of the overall world, she's strong. But when you compare her to, like, where she's at compared to relevant characters right now, like even the Diablos members, like I don't think that she would, be up to really compare to any bad guy of real relevance at the moment, or antagonist, because I still don't think that Diablos are inherently evil, at least currently. But even if she's not like even close to like how powerful Gray and Metro are by themselves, the fact that she's doing a unison raid, that's multiplying, it's adding a multiplication between her magical power and Gray's magical power. So regardless of how strong she is, she's able to, come up with they're able to make a much stronger attack than what Gray would do just normally. So it would be more than his own capability. Anytime you do Unison Raid, it's automatically going to be stronger than, the one individual because you're combining the two. So this attack makes sense. You have not only like a character who is a level that is understandable to be taken out by, a Unison Raid by. I would say Juvia is definitely S-class. I don't know, like maybe she's like an area of Wizard Saints, but obviously Gray's Spriggan level. But you combine the two with a Unison Raid, yeah, it makes sense of why this attack would be able to take Metro down, on top of the fact that Metro, as said, is a summoner. He's not made to take damage. He's not designed for that when you think about his style. If he did, then obviously he'd be somewhere outside of the more conventional like style of a summoner. But after they ended up defeating him, like it just seems to kind of like going a little bit well. I was a little bit bummed because I was like, I really wanted Gadgeon to have like a moment. I was really hoping that like I mentioned before, that the way they defeat him is like Gray's like, I just need to get a hit in. You have Gadgeon maybe do some like big attack that ends up cleaving a bunch of the wood golems, opening up for Gray. But I still think this was a pretty good moment, because not only does it, like I said, a nice callback, it's using older events and then utilizing them in a way that has to do with the progression of the characters involved. Like I said, Juvia and Gray, when you take like their first encounter and you kind of take elements of that and do it for a tag team match, like, or a 2v1 duel match like this, I think it works really well. and it shows a lot of like the progression of their character. And not only that, afterwards when Juvia is like trying to tease Gray into saying, where did you get your power from again? What power were you talking about? She's just trying to coax some information out of him, and he's like, yeah, listen, our friends are in trouble. We can't be messing around in here. But he's still like, he puts his hand in her head and pulls her a little close, and he tells her that he's glad that she's, all right and safe. So that was really nice, and I know that there's a lot of shippers that are probably going crazy over this chapter, but I think it was really, really good in terms for the characters. It again further shows Gray's progress and shows how much like his feelings of Julia have changed over the course of the series, and really just puts that last nudge before they become like a fully canon ship. Just so much more closer. Like we already know, once Gray feels strong enough that he's able to protect her, then he's gonna be it'll happen. After that point, we get back to other members of the cast, but we did get a short part of just Natsu against the God Seed Alderaan. Like the main Alderaan just kind of lets out a roar of upset, and the God Seed is upset that Metro has fallen. I'm curious to know what this is gonna mean. I don't think that it'll be oh yeah, once you defeat the God Seeds, Alderaan himself will be way weaker. I think it's maybe the God Seed version. Maybe it messes with connection to his main body. You guys ground crush him with your weight. I don't know. But I get back to who nicely theorizing this. I was kind of on board of I don't know what involved, but she haven't yet Indish. But I managed to join because this reopens up so many people's want to get Brandish to join the guild, and I don't think she will. I think she's still very loyal to the Alvarez Empire, so I don't know about that one. Either way, they're talking to her and being hey, I would really appreciate if you guys could work on this. They're trying to be wait, yeah. The way that they introduced her being there is when they're trying to figure out what's going on even, or where are we? How did we get here and where are these clothes? And she's like, oh, you guys are on the top of the dragon. And very blunt about it, just being Brandish, and just saying oh yeah, I came here for parfait, and we already know that she's an avid searcher of nice tasting foods and treats. So it just adds a little bit more to know what Brandish's level of dedication is. You have a dragon that just woke up in a town that got multiple cities of civilians that got cultist civilians that got swallowed up by this creature and absorbed in. So she's just listen, I'm already here. If I die, it is what it is. I've always liked that, just Brandish's style when it comes to certain things, and then just the level of care she gives off when she's in a scenario like this. Obviously not this one, but anytime Brandish is really in any form of odd position, she's just hey, I need to figure out a way for this to kind of be the best it can be. Kind of when she was captured by the Fairy Tale Guild, and she's hey, I'll make a deal with you guys, but I really want my coat back. She's just always trying to be make herself the most comfortable in any kind of position she gets put in, which again I really like about her. Anyway, after that point, they're just kind of trying to figure out what's going on. She's explaining how she can't use her command T on Alderaan. She can't mess with him. He's a dragon, as well as the fact he's extremely powerful. But she does say I can make someone bigger, so so maybe you guys can defeat it. And that it's oh, we can make him bigger, maybe bigger than a mountain. And she's reminding of her title, Nation Destroyer. So I'm wondering what we're gonna actually witness of Brandish in her full capabilities. How big is she capable of making somebody? Because the biggest we've seen is we saw her make Happy probably 100 feet tall or something, and then she made herself kind of just I don't know, what would that be, 30 feet when she went to grab Natsu and Lucy during their little encounter with Invul. But I'm very curious to how big she can make someone, but obviously now we're getting set up for Gajiel gonna be the one that's gonna get big, which I'm intrigued with. I'm very interested to see where that goes, because I was hoping that Gaja was gonna get his own new kind of power up. Some like I've said, like an equivalent to Fire Dragon King mode, or like being able to use Dragon Force at will. But it looks like Brandish is gonna make him gigantic. Obviously, he's a Dragon Slayer. They're gonna need a Dragon Slayer for this. I still don't think they're really going to be able to deal with Alderaan unless there's some form of really weird, really weird kind of setup that maybe like Alderaan can't like X, Y, or Z. Like maybe there's something that hinders him, or he's kind of like still waking up and he can't really fight at full power yet, or something like that, to where maybe all they do is like make it so he calms down and maybe stops rampaging kind of situation. I don't know if I want him just to be straight beaten, just because Alderaan seems to be a big deal even for the Dragon Gods. I don't know. I don't think he's the strongest. I think it's going to end up being Ignia by the end of it, but we'll have to wait a little bit and see where that all kind of develops. Anyway, the chapter kind of ends with showing more of like the altercation between Jalal and Gears. And Gears like saying how like playtime is over, and he ends up putting these weird gear markers on Jalal's body and saying his calculations for killing him, are done, and the Gears have deemed him unnecessary. And I know a lot of people are probably like, why did you use like this picture when it was like very primarily like a Gruvia chapter? Listen, the thumbnail will be Juvia and Gray. I don't want to take that away from him, but the thing that I was interested the most in is this panel, because I said it before, like I figured that Metro, once like an opening was going to be found, they're going to be able to take him out. Like I said, Summoners don't have the best durability generally. That's very consistent when it comes to wizards and stuff and magic, because generally they're not going to have the strong bodies. But Gears, though, I have some high expectations for, since he's the only one really in a 1v1. And Doom was at least somewhat at the start, but obviously that's not how it turned out. But he was also more of like the silly one. I'm really hoping for Gears to be capable and strong and to give a good fight. I'm hoping for at least 2 chapters. Like, next chapter, we get, information of what this weird gear ability is. And then, revving up maybe like Jalal, like, is getting ready to drop some new spells. I'm actually really hoping that he has a new spell above Sema. But he uses Sema beforehand. Gears is able to handle it. And then he's like, okay, fine, I'm going all out. Drops like a full, like, big, new heavenly body spell that, like, makes Sema look like nothing. Because Jalal's definitely gonna, a year in time, like, after the end of the Alvarez arc, he's gonna have gotten stronger. He's gonna be gotten a lot more powerful. Jalal's not gonna stop. He's not a slacker. So I really am looking forward to this, not only because I like Jalal. I don't know anybody in this fandom that really doesn't like Jalal. And the only complaint I ever really get about Jalal is, like, some people, like, I think it's generally, like, the generic one where it's like, he's got the same mark as Zeke, even though their characters are completely different, the story's completely different. And then, like, he still hasn't forgiven himself, but that's a personal choice. Like, obviously, like, to him, he's done not enough to make up for, like, everything that he kind of, like, ended up, like, creating in the process of, like, everything that went to the Tower of Heaven and stuff. But I'm very hyped to see a fight with Jalal, because we haven't really gotten, like, a good fight with him since the fight with the Erasion Sace. Like, I think that was the last time we got to see, like, a really good Jalal, like, fight, because his, like, scuffle, I put in quotes, with Acnologia wasn't much, or with August. I think this could be a really nice time to, like, give some Jalal flex, because we don't know when the next time we're getting a Jalal flex is. Like I said, the last time we got a real good time of Jalal, like, just in fights and flexing and showing off his powers and capabilities, was pretty much the fight with the Erasion Sace. Like, pretty still early into Tartaros. Like, he didn't do much after that. Like, I don't know. I would really like to see some new spells. I'm still really hoping that Jalal sticks around a little bit after this, especially with the White Witch involved in stuff and what's going on with Selene and everything. I really want Jalal to stick around. I'm hoping he does. I think he deserves, like, at least an arc where he gets to hang out with the main cast and be, like, there. Plus, I think it would make a really interesting new setup. Like, even if he's only there for an arc, like, maybe you get, like, a really awkward tension with Jalal there, I think would be really fun to watch. Anyway, other than that, comment below. Tell me your thoughts are about this chapter. Tell me your thoughts about everything, that's going on right now. Like I said, I know there's gonna be people that are gonna be like, I can't believe like lost our with him with Metro. Like I said, you really thought about like certain aspects of the series of like consistency when it comes to like certain types of like wizards and whatnot. This, you could have seen this coming. Like I said, the only one that is really an exception to the whole summoners having low durability rule is Lucy, because she said kind of like that, I'm not gonna fight like that. She completely like turned away from that whole that whole like layout of how they would be. But I don't know. Gears, I have expectations for. I'm hoping for at least 2 chapters. Like I said, I'm hoping for 59 and 60. If we're lucky, we'll get something in 61 and get like maybe like a half chapter where he ends up defeating him, and then stuff kind of rolls into more like larger end stuff with the God Seed Alderaan and maybe even the main Alderaan body and giant Godjill and stuff. But anyway, like I said, other than that, comment below. Really